Now you and I can get together. Let it start a revolution. Change the world to what it should be. And forget all this confusion.
Hey guys, I'm out in nature with a beautiful pair of falcons flying around over my head. I hope you hear them. And I posted this morning about social media addiction. I focused on Facebook, but I was referencing the totality of social media addiction in doing that. And what I wanted to do is make a video of some of the things that I've become conscious of and that I've learned to help me to combat this problem, which is part of, I believe, nearly every single household in the world at the moment. Pretty much there are people addicted to the screen, at least, or social media. And by the screen I mean anything that's providing you with a false light is a potential addictive place to be. Television, smartphone, tablet, laptop, desktop, whatever. Now, when I got sick, I was less conscious naturally, because I was waking up and going into the cycle of there's pain, and because the pain was there, I struggled and my mind would move to the narrative of being sick, and that makes you unconscious because you clutter up your brain with thoughts of what's going to happen in the future, regrets for the pain that you're suffering at the moment and for the past that you've gone through, feeling a victim, etc. And in doing that, you become very unconscious. And because you become unconscious, you start to allow your emotions to take you all over the place. And that is a huge problem for humanity. An emotional man is a person who lacks a stoic nature, is very controllable, and that's a huge problem. So what started happening with me, I have a safe place, and that safe place is where I work. It's a very common ground is what I mean by that. Now, it's familiar, that's the word I should use, not safe. And this familiar place is where I do some good for the world. So at the same time as it being a problem, it's also somewhere subconsciously where I'm very familiar with it and I know that good things can come from it. But when you get unconscious and you're in that world, then that world can start to control you. And I thought I'd give my tips that I've learned and that I'm applying to my life to try and manage this, because my life is built around social media, but I don't want social media to control my life. I should use social media as the tool it is. Social media should not get my attention. You know, it's like a primitive man who sits all day hitting things with a pick that he's made from a piece of flint because it's interesting and it's new to him. That's a tool he should use to cut down a tree. But if he's just sitting bashing everything all day long, that tool is controlling him. Now, it's a very funny metaphor, but it's literally where we are. We are still such persons, and these tools that we are supposed to make use of are making use of us by now. And the reason they're making use of us are we have persons behind the scenes who are targeting us with these things for their benefit. So they're using those tools against you. And that is where the problem steps in, because you need to be very conscious not to let that happen. Now, first of all, one of the top things I can say to you, if you want to understand just how primitive your social media addiction can be, put all of your devices on grayscale black and white. Make all the screens black and white, and you watch how way less interesting and appealing it is to look at these screens. It truly is, because the light around you is less stimulating as that focused, concentrated light from the screen. And on a very primitive level, it draws you in. It's more eye-catching. Now, this refers to having diet as a light. So one of the first things I'd say is look at the way that you're using your phone and switch it onto grayscale, or anything, switch it onto black and white, and you watch just how much this is stimulating very primitive aspects of our human nature. We are still an animal after all. Now, involved in there is a light diet. Now, having a diet that is focused around your light is very important, and you can even easily do it because you can just look at what you all know about food. We know what junk food is. It's highly stimulating, full of salts and sugars, and it grabs your attention and your senses and makes you hang on to it. Now, if you put a Marvel movie on with lots of explosions and bang, boo, and bright colours and special effects, it's akin to junk food in the light world. It might be entertaining, but it's holding your attention, and it's not something you want your children to be indulging in every day. Let's put it that way. So when you look at how to do that healthily, you can be a Puritan. Now imagine Puritan healthy foods. They come from a natural environment. And no matter what your dietary choice is, if you look at someone like the Hadzabe, they are hunter-gatherers, they eat fresh produce across the spectrum, so that covers anybody's belief system on food, etc. And they are extremely healthy. They have some of the healthiest microbiomes in the world. They're absorbing food, nutrition from nature alone. That's why that happens. You can then be a Puritan on your light and say the most pure light to consume is the light of nature, and that is how it is. It definitely is how it is. Now, if you're less of a Puritan, you can say, but I want to look at a screen. Then you look at what that light is and what it's doing to you, because in every light on a screen carries a message to you. And if the message is just sex, money, fighting, war, excitement, then you can see that there's a more pure way you can absorb light. You can watch things that stimulate your creativity, that stimulate your yearning for knowledge. So that's my other tip, is to be very careful of the light diet that you're consuming, and just reflect it against food, and you can see easily how you should consume light to be the best and healthiest version of yourself internally. If you're going to spend time consuming Game of Thrones, you're not going to have the peace and stability of someone sitting in the forest just consuming this natural light. It's just a fact. It's an absolute fact, unless you're extremely practiced and you watch it once in a blue moon. If you watch it every day, you have a problem. Anyway, I think that's very self-explanatory.
Hi everyone, please meet Boniface. Boniface is 14 years old. He has muscular dystrophy. Mambo. As you can see, his wheelchair doesn't have foot strap, so that put him not in a comfortable or ergonomical position. His wheelchair doesn't have straps for holding in place his waist, and as well straps for supporting his sternum. They're all broken, and without these parts being repaired, Boniface won't be able to go back to school and learn while he's in good anatomical position to enable him go well in his studies. So please, for everyone to come and help Boniface go back to school and learn in the best way as possible. Thank you.
The other thing that I started doing is that you can re-engineer the platforms that you're using to not hook you. And one of the things that hooks people is scrolling through feeds, because it goes into the bottomless pit of entertainment, of things to hold your attention. You go into a feed and you see your friends posting, someone's posted a video on Facebook, you click on there, and now there's more videos underneath it for you to scroll to. Your attention's hooked. The person who set up that tool is using the tool well, because they're getting money and resources from your attention, but you are not. You are being pulled into something that you had no intention of doing and doesn't serve the essential things that you need to do in your day to be your highest good. Unless you're someone reviewing videos or something of this nature, most of us don't need to be doing it. So to change that, you can get apps and plugins. Now, I have a plugin on my laptop so that my home feed on Facebook is always just a motivational quote. So every time I open it up, there's nothing about anything from my friends, it's just a motivational quote. Problem I have is if I move to another laptop, it's there, and that does happen sometimes, and then I literally get caught. Stories are at the top of my feed, and I respond to them because I feel that I need to engage it because it's there in my personal space. But I don't really need to always engage these things, but somehow it gives you the feeling you should. So you can have the newsfeed eradicator. You can install that app and it'll get rid of it on your laptop. You'll only get positive affirmations and motivational quotes in there. And what else you can do on your phone, on your smartphone, you can't do that. So what I did, I installed Friendly, and Friendly allows me to filter the things that go on my home screen. Now, the way I did it was I filtered out anything with common words, and the, then, with, he, she, and what happens is it totally obliterates your news feed to the point where you've only got posts without any writing. If someone shared a video without putting any writing, that comes up. But it's great because most of the time very few people do that, so your feed is empty, or you just get the odd video which is not of interest to you, and you don't click on it. But when you see a friend has posted something, you tend to go off into that. But friends are for the reality of life. They're for here and now. They're not for always in the screen. So those are a few things that I started to pick up on doing. And then another thing that I started doing is managing my time as well on social media. I use it as a tool to provide for the children, and I have done very successfully. I believe perhaps more successfully than most people on the planet. I've utilized this for good, for charity. I've utilized it for the service of others. And I did that because I had a discipline in using it. That's what it was for. When I went to Tanzania, I had no social media, none. I didn't have anything whatsoever. I didn't have a smartphone until a couple of years ago, because I understood the negatives of it were so massive for society. I could see it. So managing your time and knowing what you're going on to do. When you go on to social media to post something, what is it that you're posting for? Now, many of us will post our views, etc. And when you try to post your views and opinions on things, you have to remember you'll never be a prophet in your hometown. So unless you've got an international audience outside of your circle of friends, most of the time it'll be met with deaf ears, and it's actually negative to your being because you just feel isolated and like nobody's listening to you. Sorry, my little angel Aslan needed my attention. I was saying, I think I was up to the posts that you put on. Know what you're going to do when you get on there. Know it. Don't just sit on it and start throwing stuff out there. The reason I say that is I went through a period of this when it came to veganism and seeing it as well. I used to think veganism was the answer to everything, and I'm well aware now, after farming in Tanzania and living with tribes, it's an answer to a lot in the West to get rid of it, but it's not an answer to everything. But one of the problems I saw was persons fighting for the message would just post online and feel like, I mean, it does help to awaken people, etc., online to that. But even people without an audience, or with an audience of just friends and family who are just getting agitated by it, they're just stuck in the pattern of posting it. And it disempowers you because you feel isolated. You're sharing views that no one's really responding to. And on top of that, it destroys the things that you're trying to do activism for. Because this is like a pressure valve. There's a lot of pressure in humanity for change. And it's like protesting. People go out and they protest, yeah, I'm going to change the world. And it's a pressure valve because often it doesn't change anything, 9 times out of 10. It just releases the pressure for a want to change something. And the way to change things is in the present moment. So when you go on, choose what you're going to post. Don't just go on and post random stuff, because as well, you'll get hooked and lost in it. If you're going to go online to use it for something, do it. If you're going to check on your friends and family, check on them. Go online, write them a message and get off there. Go online, check what they're saying and get off there. If you're going to update about a certain topic, go on and update about the topic. But don't just get a feeling in you and then grab your phone and post it, because I've been through that process myself as well, and it's really disempowering for you. It really is, because 9 times out of 10 it's not met with anything that is going to nourish your soul or the persons in your close network of friends' souls, unless you're saying, hey, look at this great time that I had with my family. If you go on there and you say, I'll pull back to the vegan example, this and this, it tends to be you're going to upset a certain framework of people who aren't going to change off the back of what you're doing. So you're kind of killing your own time and at the same time destroying your passion that could be used in the real world. Imagine if all of the persons online involved in activism actually got together in person and built conglomerates, forestry projects, animal rescue shelters and so on. The impact would be phenomenal and much larger than just sitting at the laptop every night and eating plants and watching it as an example for veganism. I'm not bashing veganism, I'm just saying I was in that movement and I understood what was happening. So when you go on, know what you're posting. Don't just random stuff all the time. If you are utilizing social media as a tool correctly, you will see results. If you are not utilizing it correctly, you will not see the results. Now, one thing I know, I should do a course on this, I think, or at least videos about how I did it, is consistency is so important. So if you're wanting to use it as a proper tool, this is not to help you with social media addiction, although it can, because when you see results of it being used correctly, when you get to the point I did after a year of using it in the way that I did, focused, 111 children were out of child labour the first year I started posting about kids in trouble in Uchira. That changes the way you view social media forever, because you see that you shouldn't be using your time on frivolous pursuits on there. You should be dedicating it and honing it, because the impact and change can happen. But if you come away from the present moment and you go in there and you're not grounded, you're not centered, it doesn't happen. So being consistent until you get results will change your addiction, because instead of being fully addicted to it, you'll start to realize that, hey, I have a living example in my own life that there's a better way to utilize this. By me staying focused on the topics that I'm referring to, me staying focused on the change that I'm trying to bring, and then applying that has brought the change. Thus, when I go online, if I start looking at a video that's a bit nonsensical, pretty quickly my conscious mind can cut in and say, hey, you could be posting that child, and that child could be getting the help they need instead of you wasting your time like this. So those are the tips I'm going to give for now. There's definitely more to it than that, but that's just what I want to share at the moment. Keep it short and, well, sweet, shortish and sweetish. And that's me imparting what I know. When I got sick, I became super unconscious and changed the way I was using it. And I've had to relearn that, and I think it's good that I'm relearning all of this stuff, and or at least it's coming to the forefront and conscious, because then I can share it with the world and say, hey, this is what I've done with social media, because I have used social media in a horrendously effective way, is how I perceive it. I've changed the lives of many people by using this tool in the way that best benefits me and those persons, not in the way that best benefits the persons trying to sell advertising to your subconscious mind. God bless, guys. Bye.